Welcome to Terra Invicta. Today I will be creating a tutorial on patch 0.3.18 to explain to the player base exactly what each button does and why maybe you would press that button at certain times. This tutorial is meant to not completely replace the tutorial in-game, but more of an expansion to it, to go more in depth, to maybe provide some strategies you might use in your own campaigns, and also to create more of a natural flow state from being dropped off from the tutorial to being able to go and do your own things in the game rather than just mindlessly clicking through different texts unknown at what you're trying to do or what your potential goals might be. I'm going to go ahead and quickly cut ahead to the gameplay. So now here we are in the game. This is the resistance as notified by this symbol up here, resistance objectives, and I am playing on the normal difficulty, so this scenario is exactly what you could encounter when you start the tutorial. So if you've already started a tutorial game and you're just a little bit ahead, you can either skip forward in the video till I get to that point, or I'd recommend just staying along here with me and just watching along till we catch up and get to where you are in your game. I do not have the tutorial enabled on this, as I do not want many pop-ups coming along that I have to just simply close and close out of because I already know that information. And the first event we get when the game starts is a UFO crashes on Earth. So this will contain light spoilers, this video. If you do not want spoilers, I would recommend just continuing on your gameplay completely blind for the next 8 to 10 years till you feel like it's impossible to move forward and you're just hard stuck. And so that way you can experience the story more naturally. But if you do not want to do that, or you already have done that and you're looking to, how do I jumpstart my campaign correctly? What are some of the hurdles that I'm tripping over instead of leaping over? And exactly what you're meant to be doing. So if everybody has left that does not want to hear the spoilers. So this is UFO crashing on Earth. What this signifies is actually multiple things. So if we take me here, this is, I believe, China. Yes. So this is the introduction. The commander, she wants you to investigate, send a counselor to the investigation site in the Nanjing region as soon as possible. So we can have a counselor conduct the investigate alien mission at the crash site. Now, your counselors, on that note, are always completely random. Now, you see one here is from the United States of America. That is actually localized to your region. I do not know how they pull that information. I assume it's either from your IP address or your Steam. So I will always have one counselor based in the United States, and if you're from Spain, you'll always have one from Spain, or if you're from uh, Kazakhstan, you'll always have one from Kazakhstan. You will always have your top counselor be from your home country in real life. Now on that, I believe your top counselor, usually, I don't know if this is always how it is, you always have somebody that can at least investigate alien activity. The rest of these, as far as I'm concerned, are random. They're all random. All these different buttons down here, all of the abilities of the counselors, I have no idea what correlation they have, or the spawn rates, or what they are, but I believe they are random, along with the stats and the traits of your counselors. Those are also random. Like Lone Wolf, Technocrat, Government, Affluent, Connected. We'll go through what some of these are later. As long as about these orgs, we will talk all about them. The very first thing, though, we need to do is we need to send Mr. Jeremy here to China. The first thing when you're doing this is that we need to go over is this top bar right here. When you hit something, you can see how it always changes, but it's always here. The top bar is. It can be adjusted. It is the one universal thing. There's always a top bar among all of these different activities and a description underneath. The description tells you what they're trying to do, so investigate alien activity is targeting a site of suspected alien activity to learn more about the aliens' methods and motives. It's going to cost you 5 special ops. Here's our pool of ops up here, and here's our cost. It's 5 ops here and here. The reason it's repeated is because some things are harder than others, say like stabilize nation in China. Um, on the bottom bar here, reduces unrest and target nation, improving the economy, reducing the chance the government is overthrown. The stat is linked to here, your character. You have persuasion, investigation, espionage, command, administration, science, security, and loyalty. So here we have command. The stat is command. So we can see Jeremy has 2 in command. In the stat to complete this mission, the modifier, I guess, to make it easier from your character, is command for stabilized nation, but you can spend ops to increase that chance, which is why here it does not have a fixed number behind it, unlike the investigate alien activity. I've investigated alien activities tons and tons of times. As far as I know, when a mission doesn't have this slider, you quite simply can't fail it. So like surveil, location, I assume there's a chance based on the who you're trying to survey is espionage that goes into a role at whether you can detect them or not, and I'm sure people who are better at security and espionage are technically in some background check better at surveying the location, but I do not know. I do not know if it's increasingly detected. This is moving on to spoiler territory. Right now, when this UFO crashes, it does one of 2 things. So, one, an alien operative is actually in this tile. We cannot see him till we research a technology way later down the path, but later on when you get that technology, you actually send your counselors immediately to these tiles where these aliens spaceships have crashed. You will survey, and there will be just like all the rest of the enemy factions, counselors, a little question mark with a little symbol, which you can then do the investigate counselor mission, which none of my starting characters have that mission, sadly, so I cannot show it off at the moment. But you can investigate that counselor. The other thing is, now that this ship has crashed in China, there's actually a thing that pops up later called alien fauna. So where these ships crash, there is now fauna in the Nanjing province of China. So that's going to be tough for China to deal with. And considering we're the resistance, well, it also kind of falls on us. So we can just go ahead and hit, for the very start here, investigate alien activity, and send Jeremy on that way. So the very next step we're going to do with this, our fellow man right here from India, is public campaign, coup, control nation, increase unrest, inspire, or go to ground. We're not detected, so going to ground makes no sense. Inspiring, to increase the loyalty of other counselors, we can hit that. It's a 30% chance, and seeing as how the game just started, and this man is also undetected, there's a fairly good chance at this point that he's not a traitor. So this mission is not very helpful. Increasing unrest, this goes along with the coup. The higher the unrest in a country is, the better the chance the coup is. And when you overthrow government, its points are reset. And since, well, there is no points in any country around the world, no faction has controlled any points, it makes no sense to try to coup. So the only 2 logical options we have left is control nation or public campaign. This is kind of how this is what I'm talking about of how to figure out what to do with your advisors. If you simply go through each turn one by one and identify each button that you can do and what they do, your options will go from, say, like here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buttons, to down to 2. It makes your options very simpler if you just spend a little time to think about it. Now, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these buttons are completely grayed out, so we don't even have those options, which helps this case considerably. But generally, this is something that will hold true throughout your campaign. The one, I'd say, big self-correct is once you get a couple counselors, either 4 or 5 or even 6 way later on in the game, if you're simply having like 4 of them supporting campaign in like a country like Spain that you already have 85% of the public opinion and you're just spinning the globe, spinning the globe, spinning the globe, there's a good chance that you're doing something wrong and you're actually toasting your campaign. What I mean by that is counselors are incredibly useful. And the only reasons you might be spinning the globe, spinning the globe, spinning the globe, and ruining your game campaign in that way is one of two reasons. Either one, that I found in the first couple of my campaigns is my counselors sucked. In my latest campaign, both of my starting counselors I fired as soon as possible because they were both trash. And looking at this guy's also trash. So he has Stabilize Nation, which uses command. He sucks at command. He has Surveil Location, which I assume is going to work off espionage and security, technically, or it might just be that's something I need to investigate further into this game, and if I ever figure it out, I'll get back to you in another video about it. But the way that works is the reason we can't actually detect the alien right now is because we don't have the technology. But once you get the technology, you can detect aliens. So I'm wondering if this just automatically reveals, but it does say in the tab now that I'm reading it, significantly increased the likelihood enemy counselors and aliens will be detected. So I assume it's maybe a flat boost. I don't know if how that works because there is no, unlike everything else, a percentage thing here to really check out in all the little different things. So like that's here if you're really confused about why does this guy have a 71% chance to stabilize Spain? Well, it's because from to command, the 0.6 popular support, which we can find here in public opinion. Public opinion, popular support are linked. And the national cohesion, which is here. Cohesion is this, it's the little unity thing below the country's education value. And it's being reduced by the national population. So the bigger the country is, the harder it is to do. And the best examples of that are the United States and mainly China, and as well as India. India has a ton of population. Now, they may not have as big as the GDP as the US, but the reason they are hard to take over is the US only has 335.4 million people living in it, whereas India has 1,400 million, or 1.4 billion. So it makes it incredibly hard to take these control points. But it also makes it incredibly costly for control points, which is signified in this number up here, the 0 out of 1, 2, 3. The reason you can see that is like Kazakhstan, if we hover over this empty slot, it's going to tell us cost against cap 7.87, and in India, it's going to say 21.12. For China, it's 28.84, and for the United States of America, 27.23. The bigger the country, the more GDP, the more people, the harder it is to take, harder it is to influence them from the shadows. So this man right here, we have Public Campaign and Control Nation. I assume if you're at this video, because I'm a couple days late, you've at least, if you've been trying to figure out how to play this game, watched one of those many starting nation videos on YouTube, like, oh, top 10 starting nations, or at least watched somebody else's campaign. I believe Peruvian started in Russia, Kazakhstan, and then eventually went into the United States of America. That was his expansion path, and I think he's also in India at this point. A couple other people have suggested the EU strategy that was very strong in the demo, but has been significantly nerfed. The one thing I noticed in my last campaign, I did do the EU strategy that is incredibly annoying in this patch, is, say for example, somebody that's not you, so say we're playing humanity first, which I was in my campaign, and I conquered all 4 slots of the European Union. What happened immediately after was any other faction that controlled, say, the executive of the Alpine states would, as soon as I would try to take these slots from them to try to, through crackdown and then purge, would immediately leave the EU, which is incredibly annoying because then the cooldown for my federation here would reset. I'd need to wait like a year and a half to 2 years to invite them back into the EU, and then wait even longer to then integrate them into the full European Union, which really went from being 2 years to integrate them into the EU to something along the lines of 4 to 5, which incredibly slowed down my strategy. So we can go ahead and go through these top sections here. The very first thing is the dots on the left. It's going to open up the settings. Save, load, settings, codex, main menu, quit, back to game. All of these are incredibly self-fulfilling in terms of, well, you know what they do. Except for codex. Codex is, well, basically the in-game tutorial past the tutorial. Everything is sorted into sections. terrestrial warfare, solar system for orbits, hab sites, prospecting surveys. So if you really don't know what something does, or a definition, say for example delta V, this can give you a little insight into what exactly these things all do. So like claims, you've got something on experience, what exactly mission control, money, influence. So I'm going to go through all these symbols at the top myself and exactly what they do. But if you're not clear about something, you can come here. For example, projects isn't actually up here. So a project resource represents a faction ability to engineer specific objects or outcomes. The number a faction has determines on how many simultaneous projects a faction may pursue and how fast it completes them. Factions get one project slot for free. They receive a second project slot to work on two projects simultaneously. If a counselor has an org with a project income value, they receive a third project slot if they have built a HAB module with a project income value. Multiple orgs or HAB modules, project income values provides bonuses to all projects the faction is working on. Now, I'll explain that very quickly. What do projects mean? Here we go. So these are your three projects at the bottom. These are everybody's techs. The way these work is this is like all of humanity researching technologies. That We Are Not Alone, Global Research Skywatch, and Mission to Space. Everybody pulls their points together to simultaneously research these technologies. Whoever completes the most, indicated by the top here, uh, well, you'll get your symbol in this empty slot right here. Whoever completes the most in one of these three, when the technology is eventually finished, gets to pick the next one. Now that is incredibly important, as you can see by the vast, sprawling, similar version of the tech tree. But if we go into the full tech tree, we will see, as the game proceeds to struggle to load, all of these different things. Now, most of these are projects rather than actual technologies humanity as a whole researches, but you can see how many they are, how long they might take to research, and why it's important to not let opposing factions who would maybe not research the things you're wanting to research take control of all three tech slots and basically soft lock you out of being able to get the technology you need. Examples of this would be like humanity first wanting to research uh, weapons and armor for space, and the servants having no interest in those types of things because, well, they're just trying to screw you over and they'll let the aliens take care of all of the space fighting. Who cares? So the very first thing is we have money, cash reserves. Cash reserves are at the same time incredibly important, but also incredibly useless. It's very much a thing of events can happen to where you can spend money to get better outcomes, and you need money to buy organizations. Most of the better organizations here cost influence rather than money. So money is a good thing to have early on to buy up some of these organizations. So like for example, this guy in espionage, if we really wanted to do espionage things, this organization is going to give us +1 command per month and +1 espionage. So this is actually really good because your ops, you do not get passive ops income. You only get ops from orgs, counselor abilities, or countries and stuff like that. So, and you can see how we needed to use ops to investigate this crash site. So if we do not have an ops income, we could practically soft lock ourselves out of the game almost immediately if we screw that up. The next thing, influence. Influence is incredibly important. You get influence by controlling countries and different things, counselor abilities. But influence is incredibly important for a lot of reasons. One, it is used in the vast majority of counselor mission types to boost the outcomes of them. On top of that, influence is used to purchase organizations. It may not seem like it, but these organizations are the lifeblood of your campaign and are incredibly important. The these are the most important thing in the game. I would toss away entire countries in some of my playthroughs to just have, say, for example, the Federal Protective Service from Russia. It sounds insane, but these bonuses you get from these organizations turns your agents from incompetent buffoons into either Killbot 9000 or somebody who has borderline mind control. Next thing is ops. We've already been over ops a bunch at this point, but the one thing ops does is ops helps you do certain types of missions, like for example assassinations, and coups, and increasing or decreasing unrest. So it is important. Then we have boost. Boost is one of at least the top 3 most important resources in the game. You cannot do anything without boost, and boost is not a value unlike in it. Boost is kind of weird in this game because you get boost from countries, and say for example Kazakhstan starts with the most boost because of the uh, I will not even try to pronounce that, but the Cosmodrome here in Kazakhstan. Boost is weird because what boost represents in this game is the capability to move 10 metric tons of material from Earth's surface to low Earth orbit via rocket launches. But, say for example, you could hold Kazakhstan for getting this 2.5 boost um, per month and build it all up and have, like, say, 50 boost. Then you could lose Kazakhstan and have no other country on the planet with boost. But then all of a sudden, when you get the technology to, say for example, launch a base to Luna, you could do that even though you no longer control the launch facilities itself. So it's kind of weird. But boost is always something you want to be building up, always something you want to have. It is incredibly important. Then the next thing is MC, or mission control. Mission control is incredibly important. If you go over your limit in mission control, your game is over, quite frankly. Um, it is a torrential death spiral of negative events that will just completely your game ruin you. It is beyond brutal. Generally, mission control is for every satellite or base you have, it takes a mission control. For every new mining outpost you build, mission control. So it's very useful to have mission control, and especially a buffer of mission control, because there are events like solar flares that will happen in the first couple of years of the game, which will reduce your mission control capacity by like 50%, and which could completely screw you. The next thing is science. You get science from counselors who have, if we see here, monthly incomes. Jeremy is producing 3 research, and this man is producing 0. The reason for this is, well, Jeremy has a science score here. Boom. It is creating science and also boosting how much science income he is making. Mainly you get science income from counselors with orgs. The different orgs, so like CERN here, minus 28 money per month, plus 40 science, and plus 3 to his total science score, and a plus 10% to energy research. CERN in the Vienna region in, well, Austria, I assume, right? Yes, if I have my geography right here. I have no, yes, Vienna, Austria. I don't know why they did this. They combined the Alpine states from Switzerland and Austria into one. Maybe it has something to do with Swiss neutrality in real life, and they didn't want to code that into the game. I do not know. But even minor African nations have, like, their entire countries. I find it weird why the Alpine states are one when we have separated nations. Obviously, we don't have even the smaller nations like the breakaway state from Romania, like here, um, in smaller nations like that. But I find it weird. The Alpine states, of all things, are one collective thing, especially since you have Iceland itself separately modeled. I truly do not know why. If anybody knows, please leave a comment about that. I'm honestly very what's the term? Uh, Intrigued by this. um, the next thing beyond science, well, I guess I'll cover this as well. Science is also generated by countries. Um, Basically, you can see there: education level, economy, cohesion, democracy, and unrest. The long story short, this number right here goes from 0 to 10. 5 is the best. 10, the higher the number is, the harder it is to break the country apart. But 5 is the best for science, and so 5 is the best for us, because science is what we need to outpace the aliens and to not get clapped. Generally, Higher the democracy, higher the GDP. So like the United States of America, 4.18. China, 3.28. Now they have higher GDP, but they have way less democracy value. And if we hover over here, it's also based on the education level, the cohesion, and unrest. China has two, subversion and unrest. It's developing, so their education is kind of hurting them, and they're in dominated cohesion, so that's also quite hurting them. America's polarized, but it has an advanced education and actually more unrest than China. Um, and so that very much is something that is what adds up to the total research here. The next thing is your capacity for holding control points. I'm going to tell you this right now. Going over this limit is GG as far as I'm concerned. Every singular point you are over this capacity, it costs you 2.5 or like 2 or 1 influence. So if you're 20 over, it's going to cost you like 40 influence. Influence is how you buy orgs. Orgs are how you win the game. This is very clearly seen because there are some missions where you can either contact here with other uh, or other factions and see what they're doing. And universally, all of the AI, what do? They buy list, just pages of organizations. The reason for that is the AI is doing the right thing. The organizations in this game are insane. They are incredibly overpowered. But they are expensive. They take tons of influence. Sometimes they take money to upkeep and influence to upkeep. But they give you great benefits. Being over this limit completely destroys your game. And increasing this capacity is not easy. You only get, so like, say France, for example, it's 14.42 for the cost against cap. So let's just say, oh, like maybe Portugal is a better example. So it's 7. So we're like, okay, we're almost at limit. We have 3 points to spare. Portugal's in the European Union. We want to get them ticking along towards unification. Screw it. We're just going to take these 2 control points. Now we're 12 over. Well, 12 times 2.5 or 2 is, well, let's just average it out to like 24, 26 minus influence. Well, that's actually more than what we're making in our entirety right now. 26 lost influence per month for an entire year. Well, now we're looking somewhere in the couple of hundreds, like 300 to 400. And if we look at our boys here, well, that's more than the entire cost of the CIA. Well, I mean, now you wouldn't be able to afford the CIA. That's another thing you have to be careful about. You have to look at the monthly income. Monthly income can kind of trick you because when you think income, it's, well, it's something I'm getting. Well, in reality, I guess they didn't want to just put monthly income and monthly output since most orgs only give you stuff, they don't take away. But an example of the CIA right here is you actually lose 400 money per month when you have the CIA, which is incredibly bad. But if you look at all the numerous bonuses, that is enough bonuses to turn any average counselor into a complete Omega Chad. So it can definitely be worth it in a lot of cases. A less intense version of that would be like the Federal Protective Service, headquarters in Moscow. It's only minus 10 money, but it's ton of ops, investigation, command, and security. But here, like Hathor Systems cost $294 and 20 influence, and it only gives you bonuses, and it actually gives you more missions. That can be incredibly important to make your counselors not garbage. And we can see here he's actually already gained one from that Excalibur Private Investigations, the Sabotage Project. Counselors only come with a certain amount of missions. When we go back to here and we recruit them, we can see all of their missions here. So example, like this person is incredibly garbage. The reason for that is because if we look at her stats, she's good at espionage, investigation, persuasion, and Atsy has a halfway okay administration score, but Atsy really good at science. So this person, in terms of attributes, is chatted. The problem is she's Earthbound. You can get rid of Earthbound. It's not that big of a deal, especially in the early game, but it will cost us a lot of her early XP to sort of fix her, if that makes sense. She's a fugitive, she's an addict, social scientist really good, academic really good. So this is like a 60 XP sink into fixing these traits. And, well, persuasion, well, you're going to be good at controlling nations, sure, but the main thing is you want high persuasion for turn counselor. We have that. And boosting popularity, which she doesn't have. And in the early game, the way you take control points is by boosting popularity and then hitting control nation. So later on, this is actually a good person to maybe have a few orgs lined up in your back pocket by here unassigned org, so you can actually buy an org and unassign it to put it here and sort of keep it as like a back pocket thing. So it's like, well, maybe right here, the Shuhao spacecraft, monthly income plus 1 MC and plus 3% spaceflight program. Well, maybe you don't need that right now, but you definitely will need that later. Maybe you're thinking like that. You can buy it, and then here, click on it, unequip org, and it'll throw it into your unassigned orgs. So then we can go over to somebody else later on, pretend this guy's someone different, not garbage. We can be like, okay, buy that one woman, and be like, boom, complete transfer, and now he has it. Sort of like keeping it in your back pocket. So if we go back to recruit, these people take influence. We haven't spun the globe, so we actually only could afford her. She costs 30. There's other people. So we have a spy. He's good at espionage. Now this person is almost good. The reason for that, well, he has assassinate, has turn counselor, has investigate counselor, increase unrest, coup. So those are, you have to think about these in combos. So like crackdown makes control points of enemies vulnerable, and purge allows you to seize control points, and especially vulnerable control points. So if somebody has crackdown but not purge, that's kind of awkward. And if somebody has increase unrest but not coup, or coup but not increase unrest, also kind of awkward. So he has those two combos right there. He actually also can increase public campaign, which is really nice. He has survey, he has sabotage facilities and hab modules. He can extract, he can sabotage projects, steal projects, control space asset, and investigate alien activity. So he is actually really good. He also has a trait of government, allowing him certain orgs. He's aware, he is prosperous, he's undercover, so that's actually really good. He gets better espionage when he's being detected. He's connected. So this guy is actually really, really good. The only thing he's missing, with his low command is kind of whatever, is assault alien asset. So we can hire him, but later on, we can maybe get an organization that will then allow him to assault those alien assets. Maybe not in here or right now, but that's something to definitely look forward to. But this person is actually really good. The next thing we can look at, and also the cap has gone up. So the cap, you can increase it, if you see down there. It's either through research, which is the main way, or the administration, command, and persuasion of counselors. So your early counselors, you want administration, command, and persuasion if you're looking to do something kind of crazy, like, say, the America opening. I've tried the America opening a couple of times. No matter what I do, I'm always like 20 over the cap, and it just completely tanks my game. I almost find the America opening never really worth it. The next campaign I'm going to try is the India opening. I'm going to snag Kazakhstan, then take Pakistan and Bangladesh and the Himalayan states. The reason for that is when you're trying to take control points, if you own nations directly adjacent to the nation you're trying to take, it gives you a boost to taking that new nation. So if you want to take, say for China for example, you really want to control Mongolia, Kazakhstan, North Korea, Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, and to some extent India and the Himalayan states. So you want to snag up all of the littler countries, get control points down into China, But even China has the same problem with America. It's 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. Well, now we're 50 over the points. Now it's 100 influence per month we're losing. So we're just going to completely toast our campaign by trying to do that. That's why I don't think these openings are very strong for the China-United States opening. I don't think they're the meta. Um, so when we recruit somebody, if you recruit somebody new on the assignments phase, which is right now, at the beginning of the game it's once every week, but once you get the event, the new normal, I think at the first of the year or 1st of February, I can't remember, the assignment phase is once every 2 weeks. So he can also investigate. We don't really want him to do that. Main thing is he has public campaign. So that's what we want him to do. So if we were doing the Europe strategy, we would want to start in like the Benelux and then take Germany, France, and try to unite that. Maybe sneak in a Czech Republic when we go to Germany. The stronger strategy I think at the moment is what Peruin did in his video. I don't know how replicable it is, but you can generally follow along his footsteps. It's the Eurasian Union into taking the United States strategy. I think that's the strongest. We're going to spend a little bit of money boosting public campaign in Kazakhstan, and then we're just going to outright try to take a control node. 80% chance. It's definitely worth to spend a little bit of influence to try to take control points early on, because you're trying to take them before other people can. Generally, when everybody's counselors are really garbage, sneaking into a nation and getting it before other people can will dissuade them. And the way taking these points work is you can actually lock out smaller nations. The best examples are 2-slotted nations for yourself, because we see here we have the oligarchs in Kazakhstan and the executive branch. But that red highlighting, under normal circumstances, may only be targeted for control by a faction with at least one control point in the nation. I don't know what the special non-normal circumstances are, to be honest, but I do know that people don't have that at the beginning of the game. So if we were to go to Kazakhstan and seize this control point, we would actually technically then be controlling and sort of locking out the other nations from being able to get this other control point. Now, if we only control one of them, we're only going to be getting half of the goodies from the nation, so like half the boost. So we don't want to do that for Kazakhstan. But things like that would work for, say, Portugal. In that example, we're trying to unite the EU to, say, block another faction from controlling Portugal. You could just sneak a little cheeky control point in for 7 instead of 14, and just sort of leave it as a placeholder. Keep in mind, though, for uniting the European Union, if you're here looking for that kind of a strategy, there are tons of cooldowns and alliances for that, but generally, when you go to unite, you have to control both countries' executive branches for 180 days before you can do something like that. Now, that's definitely a lot, shorter than the multiple years scenario I gave when I was kept getting cucked at the last second for uniting my EU, but it's definitely something to think about. The next resources are water, volatiles, base metals, noble metals, and fissiles. Now these are all space resources, which I'm going to leave for another video, because this is more of a basic tutorial, basic introduction, and very basic, like, I keep going in about different strategies like the America opening, the India opening, this thing about Kazakhstan. Why is Kazakhstan so important? Well, you may ask, well, it's because of this 2.5 boost. It's the most boost on Earth. The next closest would be the United States of America with 2.3 boost. So little tiny Kazakhstan, for a total of 15 to 16-ish control points, has more boost income than the United States, taking 180 control points. If you do not take Kazakhstan first phase it, like the AI almost always takes it. The AI in this game is generally, from what I've seen, pretty decent. They may not always do what I would consider the right move or the smartest move, but I've never seen them do something that I would consider dumb. And in terms of waging wars, the AI, which wages wars like physically on countries, like say Russia declaring war on Ukraine, all the time is humanity first and the servants. The other factions generally don't declare war unless another country or another faction like the servants or humanity first has gotten that ball rolling. So it's something to think about. We can hit confirm assignments. The next thing we can go through is go to Earth. These buttons up here. So go to Earth, very straightforward. We could be way out here, zoomed in on, say, this random asteroid. If you want to go back to Earth, clicking it once is going to center you on Earth, and you are, boom, right back here on Earth. It will zoom you in on a random point of Earth because that's just from Ganymede, the asteroid. That's just directly behind the camera positioning is where that is, so it just kind of takes you in. For controlling the Earth, you can right click and drag to do it like this. That's the way I do it. Generally, you can play this whole game from your mouse, which is a nice change. I generally also use my keyboard for space to unpause and to pause, because I'm used to playing games like EU4 to where I'm playing on 5 speed and I'm just like mashing the spacebar like boom, 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 boom through event and event. Generally, you don't do that in this game, but that's just sort of like my comfort settings is spacebar to pause, unpause, right mouse button to move, left mouse button to click. So the next thing we have is view solar system. It's the opposite of the go to Earth. It just views the solar system. The next thing, you've already seen me click this a bunch of times at this point, is the council button. It brings you to here for the counselors. Click on one, can bring you here for the stats, the XP to augment, what missions they can do, what orgs are available, your unassigned orgs, orgs from administration, total orgs allowed. So we'll go into up here. What does XP mean? You get XP by doing missions. 1 or more XP for attempting missions, and they typically gain 2 XP, at least 2 for successful missions. More difficult missions, I assume like Assassinate, would grant you better XP than something easy like Public Campaign. Augmenting is how you spend that XP. You have the +1 all stats. If you ever played a game like any roguelike, something like that, it's very reminiscent of that. Oh, I got 20 XP, but I'm going to increase my persuasion stat by 1. You know, something like that. Where it gets funky is down here at the bottom. You see 80, 40, 10. You can get traits or modified traits. So we have Puppet Master. So he already has Connected, which is 3 monthly income of influence. We're getting up here. But you can upgrade him to get 8 monthly influence with Puppet Master. Puppet Master is an upgraded trait of Connected. So by spending 40 XP, you remove Connected, gain Puppet Master, getting a total net increase of 5. You also have Wealthy. I don't think Wealthy's ever really worth it. I don't think any of the money traits are really worth it. I've never struggled for money in my games, and I'll show you a little bit of how that kind of works. We'll go ahead and play a little bit of the game after I've gone through all the buttons to show why that's not really a big deal. So that's generally it. You have the customization. You can change anything you want about these counselors. So if you're like, you know, if you're having trouble with visuals, you can be like, oh, he's an activist, or say this guy, I don't know, profession. You can be like any, and say he's your guy who's going around, you know, doing police work. He's your guy who's cracking down. He's like the purge guy. You can put him in a little police hat here, and then it makes it a lot more simpler visually for you to be like, okay, the guy in the police hat is the guy who's going around and doing all the things. Or if we have, say this guy's being, oh, I'm, you know, the investigator. He's going around and doing all of my shady stuff. You can go here to, where is it? I think I passed it, to Rebel. Boom. And be like, okay, well, he's going to be this, you know, buzz cut-ish. Not really buzz cut. I don't know why I said that. Sort of military camouflage guy, and then he's the guy that's going around. Well, inversely, it'd probably be more sense that this is the military guy and this is the police guy. But that's, you know, something. I normally don't do this, but it can be something if you're struggling to remember what counselor does what. It's an easier way to do it because in this faction screen, it's kind of hard to tell who does what here. This symbol is what thing they're currently pursuing. This is what country they're in, their name. This little tiny symbol is kind of hard to see, but it can increase at a quick glance. You can be like, well, job here. Well, he's in the police hat, so I generally know, my mind then connects what that thing does, what this thing does. Just something helps if you're more of a visual person rather than a pure memory type of person, just want to flat out remember everything. Next thing we have here is nations. I generally don't click on this tab. Um, this can just tell you, more about control points. Design priority template, you can sort of do this. This can be useful. In one of Peruin's later videos, I saw him kind of clowning on some of these of like, oh, liberal, and then it's still spoiling the country. I'll get into why spoils is bad later, but generally, he's clowning on how the vast majority of all of these, so even peaceful, is still spoiling, taking spoils from the country. So I thought that was incredibly funny. Um, I generally don't touch this. This is generally just a overview of the entire world in a ledger. If you're more of a ledger type person, I don't think it definitely can be useful. Um, but I've never really used it. I've never had a point where I needed this because you can just click on a country, say like Germany. Well, I could come to the ledger and wait for this to load, or I could just click on Germany and get all of that same information right here. The next thing, HABs. So at start, there's two. The Tiangong station, which I believe represents China's space station. I could be wrong, but it's owned by Project Exodus at game start. And of course, the ISS, which is owned by the Academy. Um, these are just what's in space, what's around space. You can go all factions. Generally, the way you're going to use this tab is you're just going to be like, okay, I'm the Resistance. Only show me my things. I don't really care what other people are doing. And you can sort and name all of your stuff here. The next thing, fleets and spaceship construction. I can't even show you this because, well, to say, for example, design a ship class, you have to have researched a ship class to design and actually have stuff on it. So I quite honestly can't even show you any of this because of the way the game works. The next thing is research and development. We've been through this a little bit. The only thing is you can change the project. These are your individual projects. So generally the way this works is when you research these top techs, which are useful to generally everybody, everybody gets them. When you research these projects down here, only you get them. But you get projects. As you see here, we have no projects. We get them from researching these bigger techs. So audience research, we can see project details. You can hit project details on everything. It'll actually tell you what each of them do, which is very useful. So here it's going to give us 25 influence, which is kind of useful. 18th of December, well, that's 2 months of research to get 25 influence. We're getting 25 months, so that's basically, we're converting our research for 2 months into 1 month of influence. I don't really think that's the best trade. Management, it's just, I don't know. It's really expensive, not really worth. I'm kind of struggling. Like, you don't need the money, and the only thing, if you can't get a special ops off rip, off game start for plus operations, this is probably what you want to do, is the plus 20 ops. But generally, I don't even think this is worth it down here to get these things. I would immediately, you can see here, clandestine cells. It's kind of useful. Deep System Skywatch. That has an event which ruins the Academy. It cracks down half of all of their control points. So if you're playing as the Academy, uh, there's a couple different playthroughs of the Academy on YouTube right now. I don't know the meta for the Academy. If you want to stave off the Deep System Skywatch as long as possible to make it to where you can actually solidify yourself before you get ran over by that event, or should you rush it as soon as possible so that way it doesn't really affect you? Don't really know the meta for that, but I do assume the meta isn't to just ignore it. The next thing, mission to space. Yeah, it's kind of useful. All of these aren't really intriguing to us, but this is honestly hot garbage compared to any of these, so I would probably just be like, Deep System Skywatch, might as well. The way these bars work, the higher the bar, the more priority gets put into it. No bars, no priority, but you can't have no priority for no tech. So you can split, see here, greater split, all here, even split. And when you put them all to max, obviously these are even splits. So that's more of like I want these two even split and one here. So now we're going, it's not always completely even, but it's even enough. There's always the point extra. I don't know why it's not, exactly even. It might be the way the game's coded or some like denominator of not being able to divide the number that way. Who knows? I'll be honest, I'm not that big on math. Next thing we've got Intel. So the Intel tab is we have Transfer Planner. This is something I have not in-depthly used because I still don't understand how exactly this works, but I assume you can be like origin, International Space Station, destination, Luna, let's just say low Luna orbit, and then you can type your acceleration in delta V. So we don't even have a ship to base this off of, so I don't really know what to put in here. But I assume this could tell you if my ship has an acceleration of bleh and delta V of bleh, how long would it take from it to get to the ISS, from the ISS to low lunar orbit, so it could be useful. Solar system, I think this is quite literally every asteroid, every planet, everything in the entire solar system. Now, this is more useful than the nations thing, because it can kind of tell you what resources are on it. Generally, though, you're not going to use this all of the time. So then we have global. Global mainly is for wars. We can see here Russia versus Ukraine. Russia has this sea superiority. Russia has, I don't know what this is, but I assume it's control points or something representative there. And this is nuclear barrages from, if we close out of here, Russia, 30 nuclear barrages and to 0. If we hit the number, yeah, here, these green stars here, I assume that's what it's representing. Oh, I'm a doofus. What this means is this is an army. Russia has 3 armies. The armies are controlled at each control point. Ukraine has no armies. It's all just local defenders and provinces here trashing the Russian armies. France, 1 army. UK, 1 army. America, 6 armies. So that's showing us, in a brief overview there, 3 armies to 0, nuclear barrages to no nuclear barrages, naval supremacy, which is represented here, freedom of the seas, to no navy. So we go back. We can then now see, we've been over global. This can show you the environment, which is kind of useful. I don't really use it all that often. We've got world data, Earth population, space population, GDP of the world, per capita GDP, and how much commodities are selling for. I've never sold commodities. I'm always desperately needing more commodities. I'd rather buy commodities than sell them. So I've never really used this. Factions, you can see counselors, resources, objective relations, tech. You can get these numbers by infiltrating, turning counselors, spying on counselors, that kind of stuff. Then you have the aliens. You can see what the aliens have been doing, well, that you can detect, and what aliens you've tracked. And this is later on the estimated alien threat level. It'll be like 1.2.3.4.5, and sort of like zigzag lightning shape. Higher that is, the more the aliens are pissed off at you and will try to come and clap you. The next thing, well, as I talk, I'll get the game rolling so we can hurry this along, because I'm starting to take up a lot of your time here on something that's a basic tutorial. First event, you're always going to get this one. Never take the money. It's just garbage. This is the ops. I actually did take this ops in my last playthrough. I'm probably going to do that again. I think +3 ops is incredibly strong early on. You will use it. I wouldn't take the research. Mainly it's down to influence or ops. I'm probably going to take the ops because I just think the +4 ops like immediately is just incredibly useful. This is the UN Security Council meets. This will always happen. Basically, a great deal of information about the resistance will be exposed to our enemies, and you gain public support and influence. So as the resistance, we only really have one enemy technically on paper. The factions in this game, I think, are one of the best parts about it, is like Humanity First and the Resistance, for example. We want Humanity First to do good, because Humanity First wants to kill aliens. And if Humanity First is super good and is destroying all the aliens, that makes our lives a lot easier. The only two factions we really care about stopping are the Protectorate and the Servants. So generally, people knowing a lot about us isn't that big of a problem, and we want the influence, so we'll go ahead and deliver our manifesto. Humanity First. That comes up in, so I'll show you how to do these. These can be annoying, these pop-ups. Comes up every time. So Kazakhstan, we used money to increase his odds of doing this, so we're just going to hit continue. If you want time to not move forward, because normally you pause to read these, you can hit close instead of continue, and it'll just close this pop-up without actually restarting time. Because that can get incredibly frustrating when you have 5 counselors and you're trying to, well, continue then pause, but then the next counselor's pop-up comes up, and then you have to pause again, and then it's like a whole thing. So just hit close. I think I got off track there, but so we can wait. Got the alien activity. That small bonus that event is talking about, One Humanity, that's also another event you get, is this. So we're going to take me there. We got a control point in Kazakhstan, so we're actually in. Change project, alien signatures, select project. This 1% value, that is what we got from investigating that crash. Every crash you go to and investigate, you get a 1% bonus to researching the xenology category of tech. If you've ever played a game like Stellaris, is I think the best example. These are basically your technology categories, and you can think of it sort of like in the engineering category, you have material science for researching something, or you have particles for researching, say, beam weapons in Stellaris. This is what this is. That is, you construct buildings and habitats in space to give you bonuses on certain types of things. So, like, if you're playing Humanity First, maybe you want to do stuff into, like, military science to make it easier to research all your ship parts. Or if you're playing as the Servants, maybe you want to make xenology really easy to do, so that way you can find out more about the aliens you're trying to help. So the next thing we can go into now, we're on the next assignment phase. You have regions, counselors, relations. The claims are more of like an advanced thing. I'll maybe cover in another video at this point. This one's kind of stretching out. Kind of want to wrap it up. We have this, priorities. This is the next big button. So we have direct investment. If I ever figure out what this does and how to not completely screw yourself over by using this, I will make another video explaining more in depth about this. I've not used this. I've not really seen somebody else use this, so we're going to ignore that. Abandoned nation. When you abandon nation, it'll crack down your control points. But the difference in between the enemy cracking them down and this is that you no longer spend influence. It removes the country from the cap. So if you're trying to basically do the Great Migration from, say, like all of these, control Himalayan states, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and then want to try to move into India, which is what I'm going to try to do, you don't want these other countries anymore, especially like, say, the Himalayan states. You abandon them, they no longer cost you control points, and then you can just control India. So the economy. The economy doesn't really matter what that top, I never use that. Generally, when you're trying to boost your GDP in a country to increase this, your monthly investment points, the way you do that is you want as low inequality and higher per capita GDP. Um, Putting investment points into the economy can increase GDP, and the per capita is increased by, you want low unrest, low inequality. Kazakhstan actually has low inequality, so we can boost economy. We don't really care about mission control. We mainly want more boost. Funding, we can keep it at 2. Never do spoils. Spoils is very bad. Don't build a military here. Don't build an army. Well, the military and the army. The build army physically will spawn in an army. The military tab just upgrades this, your tech level. Kazakhstan has a 3.3 tech level. That's pretty bad. If we do increase any country's tech level, it's going to be India, since they already have 3 armies pre-built. And that's a pretty decent force if we can actually get it up into something like the information age, I think, right? Yep, for the United States, like 4.5. Go back to Kazakhstan. Knowledge, authoritarian. The more knowledge you have, the better this will go up towards democracy values, which will then increase how much research you're getting. So we do care about this, but not really. And then we don't really care about welfare, but we'll keep a value point in it just to keep this beyond low. So then we go back to our boys again. We can control Kazakhstan, sure. Let's just go ahead and try to control Pakistan. And then we'll send, 1%. This guy's really bad. He has a lot of different the missions we like, but he's just garb at everything. He's really, really, really bad. So we go here. We can actually maybe get another person who isn't so bad. Hasn't refreshed, so that's really not good. I'm just going to quickly grab her. I don't think she's that good. But she is somebody. Yeah, she's also just terrible. But she does have control, so we can shove some early influence into her. Tell her to go control that. And this guy, I don't know. He can go ahead and survey in France, since it looks like the initiative has already got a control point over there. I don't think that's very useful, but generally that guy, if I did buy him, I think I did. That was a mistake. He's very bad. But yeah, it's a very, very bad mistake. So we're in Pakistan now. He did detect somebody. The way the detect works is it's every surrounding tile. So if he's detecting in Paris, he's going to see what happens in Lyon, Hamburg, Amsterdam, and London, the surrounding tiles. For controlling priorities, we already set one up here. If we want this second one to match this one, we don't actually have to like, click, 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 and that's super annoying. We can just hit boom, and it's just going to match every other one of these to the first one, which is good. We can see what we already set up is already increasing the cohesion a little bit, which is nice. And actually pump that a little bit more. We want to get that to 5. And our boost is going up from here, so generally not bad. Mainly Kazakhstan, we're not really concerned about it growing super big. Later on, if we get the Eurasian Union and India, we can integrate. But generally, we only grabbed Kazakhstan for this 2.5 boost. That's really the only reason we're here. And that later plan of integrating it with the Eurasian Union is why we're not leaving the Eurasian Union. If you have no plans of going to Russia, you can do a mission yep, here we go. Set national policy. Is this guy? No, he's our control point guy. We don't want to waste him. So we can just continue to take some control points here real quick. Hopefully they get those 2. Send her over to Nepal. Is this guy? He can set national priority? Sure. We'll send him over. So there's the academy. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. So we can see if we go to Intel, now that we've discovered them, we can actually, 1, see their leader, and 2, we can see their resources. So the people who didn't announce themselves at the UN Security whatever Council meeting, we can't really see what they want or have. So the people that we do find out about, we can see. So we can see he's getting some boost, see their incomes, which, if you're playing a faction that's wanting to be more aggressive to other people. Being in the shadows is better, people not knowing about you. But if you generally don't care about all that stuff, you're just trying to expand your influence, the expose yourself to the world option is better because generally ends up giving you a lot of positive relation around the world, allowing you to expand easier. Again, with that event, not really sure what the meta is, but so here, um, to leave the Federation, this button is what you want. We can't actually do that, and we can see why. First of all, here, cooldowns for alliances, federations, and unifications. We can see we have one with Russia, the 25th of September 2023. So we can't actually leave the Federation till that. We can also see that by hovering over Russia in the Relations tab. Leave Federation requirements, fail. Um, well, it says here, Russia must not be a lead nation of Federation, fail. Executive power. Do we have to do the reverso? Probably. Yeah, so here it is. So lead federation requirements for Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan must not be the lead nation of the federation. We pass. Executive faction must have taken power by force or have held power by 180 days. Well, we still have 173.8532 days remaining till we can bail. If you're never wanting to go into Russia, that's good, because Federation heads, you can see here the 0.23 boost, they're only getting that boost because Kazakhstan is in the Federation. So if we want more boost, we can see here we're only getting 0.31 of this 2.5 boost because of this weird split thing going on. So it's not good. If we were never planning on taking Russia, we'd definitely want to bail Kazakhstan out of the Eurasian Union. We can continue onward. Yep, Himalayan states, Pakistan, cool. We don't really care about these priorities because we're planning on bailing them out of this thing. We can actually bump spoils to max. Save a little bit of time here. Almost fell into bad habits. Boom. We can spoils. What spoils does, and why you never want to do it in a nation you actually want to keep, is completing the spoils priority grants me money, but it also makes people pissed off in the country, and it generally toasts the GDP. If you want money out of a country you're going to be keeping for a while, you do funding, because funding directs national resources into legitimate government and private efforts to support the country instead of illegitimate ones, which is spoils. Um, so funding increases this number, which it will just naturally over time make it to where you get more and more money from the country. That's your long-term make the country better while making you better type deal. Where spoils is the backroom, sweetheart honeypot deal to where you just take the money and run. So not that good. So we can see here, we're getting better and better chances at securing India because we are slowly controlling all of the surrounding nations to India. Oh no, yeah, we can just send this guy and just, he's pretty useless. I'm just going to YOLO him into India. That'll never work at 1%. So we'll keep here, securing. Yeah, whatever, he fails. Not surprised that he failed. It's not really a big surprise. So we were actually spotted. Um, Counselor, Erika. Um, I've got to experiment with this more in my games. I generally never do this, but I'm actually going to send him to ground here in this example. If you want to be undetected by other factions, how you get rid of that is you go to ground. When you go to ground, it's going to make it to where they don't see you. So generally, when you detect another person's counselor, you'll actually be able to see them like fly around the world and go all over the place. But eventually, they'll disappear because that's because they've gone to ground. So we're actually going to do the economy. The reason for that is the Indian economy is super strong because there's so many people. Oh, here we can go. Earth Fleet 1. Global research done. Yeah, we knew he was going to fail. Another global research done. Boom, we've got Bangladesh. We can see already here. We're already filling up on all these little nations. Now we can see here, if we take somebody who's actually competent, our chances of actually taking these Indian control points are getting pretty good. So we can send him to control here. If we take somebody who's actually decent at public campaign and go to India, give them a tiny bit of money. We can actually survey in India, make sure nobody's trying to... Oh, there's Protectorate, servants. So eventually you will encounter them. The UN thing just speeds up at the rate at which you are encountered by the other factions. So it's generally good, generally not good. It's all kind of subjective. What strategy's good? What's the meta? Who knows? I definitely don't. Um, and we're not too concerned about the meta right now. We're mainly concerned about how to, say, take India. So now that we have all of these surrounding countries, we can see, well, control points and rivals definitely doesn't help us. Who are they rivaled to? Pakistan, Afghanistan, China. Well, it's not Afghan. It's Pakistan. Yep. So that sucks. So what we're actually gonna do, Pakistan. I'm gonna alt F4 in Pakistan. Get rid of it. Dump it. Yeah, we still have that. So that's a mistake. Control points and rivals. So very clear example would be in Perun's campaign when he had Russia and then got control points in the United States. That was increased by that. The main reason this is hard to take still right here is because we need public campaigns, and it's still incredibly hard to take these, mainly because these guys' persuasion isn't very good. But this right here, this difficulty with India, is showing me, I've never actually tried the India first strategy, it's showing me that it's not good. I've done nothing into increasing my odds of getting into Russia, and Russia is 16%, and I can just be like, screw it, I'll spend a little bit. 46%, that's insane. The only thing I have is one border nation. So this is confirmed to me, basically, that India rush, not good strategy, not reliable. Definitely can be done, but it's going to take a lot of restarts. But generally, for most playthroughs, just hard rush India, not good. This on along here, we didn't ever cover this. This is basically just a bunch of pop-ups. I just kind of ignore these. These are just literally every minute pop-up of what happened that you can see. You can see here the top one. Congo denied any involvement with paramilitary violence in the Kampala region. It's literally everything. So I just kind of... Or a massive hurricane has struck the Panama City region in Panama. Or the 820th Armored Division North Korea is now under control of the initiative. Boom. So it's generally something I don't really pay attention to these over here. This is your ledger. This will highlight certain things. On default, it's all on. If you unclick it, it hides what they are. You can even hide the whole thing. You can rotate through the different map modes. The main ones that are useful are nations and faction control. I've seen people play on faction control. Generally, later in the game, faction control is probably better, so you can actually see what's going on. I normally play in nations mode just because I think it's the most pretty to look at. I just generally like the way it looks the most. And you've got your date, the time of the day, the speed, and we've got the plus. This is mission summary for the month. Sort of useful, but you kind of already know what's going on there. But all in all, I think that's it. I think we're now covered every single button that in the game. Some general strategies, some general ideas behind the game, some concepts, and some what should and should not. But yeah, that is pretty much the down to low version of every button in the game. Only took us well over an hour to get here, but hopefully this this 1 hour of every button and some general strategies of what you're meant to be doing and some light spoilers can replace 8 hours of complete frustration of banging your head into a wall. Um, if this has helped you, uh, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But if you have more questions, leave it in the comments down below. I've actually started this video and this channel in general because of another YouTuber on one of his videos. You might have seen it. It was labeled something along the lines of uh, Terra Invicta and why it's not worth your time from like Corin Gaming, something like that. His video, Corin Gaming's video, I left a comment on it that was like 6 paragraphs long explaining his problems in the game. In that, somebody actually left a comment to me in that video that was unironically deleted before the video was deleted, which that Corin Gaming video is sadly deleted. In that Corin Gaming video, I left 2 huge comments explaining and trying to help people introductory with this game. And somebody ended up leaving a comment saying that I had explained things extremely well. I don't know how well my writing would transfers to this more of like a video essay, I guess, type or a video. I don't know how that translates over. I don't know how well it'll translate from written to digital format like this. But he did say that it was incredibly helpful in that I should start doing things like starting a YouTube channel, or I should get into content creation if I was that good. And I was kind of, I'd never thought about that. A lot of YouTubers sort of think for years and years about like, their stories are like, well, if I was always kind of into content creation. I was never into content creation. I was never a big fan of it. I was like, oh man, that's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult, and generally, would people even want to watch my content? But but that comment was sort of what sparked that in me. But really pushed me over the edge was when he deleted the video, because I was logging back into that video, reopening it on my web browser, about you know once every couple of hours to try to attempt to help people. Because in that end of my multi-paragraph comment, I put, if you have any more questions, ask me. And somebody asked me about how claims worked um, at some point, and I responded to him and I gave him the whole lowdown of how like claims in the European Union and the EU interacted. And to replace that, I might actually do a video then on claims in Terra Invicta, so that way hopefully he can see that, because I don't know if he was able to see that, because he left me that comment late at night and I responded to him. And when I got up the next day in the morning, that video was deleted. So hopefully he got to see that comment before the video was deleted. So that way that helped him in his European Union unification campaign. But if not, I don't know. It was more of like, I now feel like an obligation almost. Because I was sort of satisfied of helping people in the comment section of that video. Because I felt like that video was going to be a hub for a lot of the more confused people or the disgruntled people of this game to gather on. So hopefully he sees this video. And if you do see this video, please leave a comment and I will re-explain in the comments of this new video what it is, how the claims work. And if not, I will be making a video in the future about how claims work in Terra Invicta to hopefully help more people who are curious about how claims work. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching.